In the last month or two, I've been playing a lot of TCA. That's no secret on the channel. But what's also no secret on the channel is that these videos not only do significantly worse than the YBA videos, but also that a significant portion of the people watching my videos on TCA don't play the game. I mean, even after the dips in views where I've gone down to 50 to 100k per video to like 30k is still a lot of people. And the population for TCA doesn't even come close to representing the amount of people that are watching. It's not even like 5% of the people watching that are playing the game. So that then begs the question, why are so many people watching these videos but won't give the game a chance? And why do outright terrible games like Stand Upright or extremely mediocre games like World of Stands have so many more players than TCA? Well, I've heard many theories, but the main predominant one is that TCA is just a worse version of YBA. So to put that theory directly to the test, we're going to be comparing and contrasting what each game does well and what it does poorly. I'm not the only person who plays these games though, so feel free to leave your own opinions on what I talk about today in the comments. With that out of the way though, we're going to move on to the first point of contention, and that is the combat. After the combat update to TCA relatively recently, in my opinion, TCA's combat is way more fun than current YBA's. YBA in its current state struggles from a variety of long combos that deal absurd amounts of damage, as well as movesets with so many moves that it feels like at times you're playing a game of Twister on your keyboard. These combos are the norm, and several stand/spec combinations have them, leading players to getting hit once and then losing control of their character for long periods of time as they just watch themselves take damage. Not only that, but because of the sheer amount of moves in the game, gameplay often devolves into just mashing buttons until one of them works, all but removing consequences for whiffing something. When you combine the reworked specs with a reworked stand, you're probably going to have 2 to 3 combo extenders that you can just keep chucking out, and if you land one of them, then it goes directly into your auto combo that deals half their health. It's really frustrating to play and just not all that fun. TCA's combat, on the other hand, relies heavily on M1 attacks. These attacks deal extremely little stun, but if used properly can lead into block breaks, stuns, etc. Combos deal a sizable amount of damage, just like in YBA, but the difference is that the amount of time you're stunned for is minimal. In terms of the amount of moves, specs all only have 3 moves, with stands averaging usually around 5 or so. This simplicity is something that makes regularly swapping to different stands pretty easy, while also making fighting other abilities easier to understand because you have to keep track of less stuff. Sometimes simplicity is just simply better than complexity. And when it comes to YBA, they've pretty much abandoned the simplistic nature and understandability of its combat in favor of, well, a whole lot of keys on your keyboard. And the result is combat that just isn't fun. I can't speak too much on the current state of YBA balance, as I haven't played the game seriously in some time. But when it comes to TCA, balance is surprisingly solid. As it is right now, the only stand in the game that's really kinda busted is probably Star Platinum in the World. And the only stand that straight up isn't worth playing at all is Killer Queen. And even that one, for some reason, people swear by in the comments of my video talking about how bad it is. Every other stand in the game can be used to great effect if you're skilled and understand what it's capable of. This may technically be true towards YBA nowadays, since seemingly every stand can kill you in 1 to 2 interactions, but that's not balance that's interesting. All the stands in TCA have different strengths and weaknesses that you need to learn in order to use them effectively, and playing them feels unique from each other, as opposed to just memorizing a string of keys to press in order to play each of the stands like in YBA. That's really what it feels like sometimes. Which memorization of key presses do you need to know in order to one-shot the opponent? They seem to have taken the if everything's broken, nothing is approach to balance, which just doesn't work here, as we've seen time and time again. I'm pretty shocked to this day that TCA is able to retain a balance as pretty good as it is right now. I think the map is one of those things that is a bit of a failing on both fronts. YBA's current main game map has massive buildings that extend extremely high up. I think this was done to make it harder to use moves like time skip or stand jump in order to outrun people. You combine that with the pointless invisible walls, and the end result is a feeling of being constrained. The map is also exclusively a city, which lacks a lot of variety. When playing YBA's map, a lot of the time it doesn't really feel like you're in a city with buildings and stuff. It feels like you're in a city with a bunch of confined hallways. That's sometimes what it feels like, confined hallways. Because you're just being funneled down streets and alleyways that are flat. There's basically nothing there. It's streets, alleyways, and that's about it. I've said in the past that I think the map is better from old YBA, but now looking back on that opinion, I can't even say I agree, because it feels like the feeling of verticality is mostly lost. As for TCA's map, well, it shares a lot of the same problems. It's also exclusively a city, which misses that variety I was talking about earlier. The invisible walls are absolutely off the charts, significantly worse than YBA's. They're out of control. Like, listen, I've been loving TCA recently, but it might have the worst invisible walls in any Roblox Jojo game I've played, and that is a high bar to set. But the one thing that TCA's map has that it doesn't suffer from is those mile-high buildings. It only has one or two really high buildings that are significantly difficult to get on top of, rather than, well, every single building. And that's really cool. This is a point to YBA, I think, but barely, and it gets closer by the day. As it stands right now, all you have to do in TCA is Mosh Pit, 1v1s, and main game. With the introduction of Mosh Pit very recently, there's more to play with. But that being said, even Mosh Pit, 1v1s, and main game can't quite compare to YBA's 1v1s, 2v2s main game, and most notably, SBR. SBR in particular may be YBA's biggest selling point for Gamemodes. For all the complaints that it's had over the years, SBR still holds a player base. I think this stems a lot from its feeling of lawlessness. Anything goes in SBR, with just about zero restrictions. Every game of SBR is going to play out differently. You could enter with a group, you can jump in solo, you can team up with people on the fly, or just try to avoid people entirely. There's so many different ways that things can play out. It's more than just a simple battle royale like most people equate it to most of the time. And to compound all these things, you have to play SBR in order to obtain several heavily sought out stands in the game. SBR is also objectively easier with other people on your side, which encourages working together or bringing in friends to help you. SBR gets a lot of shit, and probably for good reason, especially when it comes to cheaters, but I think the game mode itself is something a lot of people sleep on. Now, TCA is currently looking into making more game modes, but until they get a fair few of those out there, YBA is gonna be on top with this, at least for now. I don't think anyone's gonna argue with me that TCA updates more frequently than YBA. The content updates themselves are still spaced out with fair amounts of time between them, because, well, development takes time, and currently TCA is being mostly worked on by just a few people. That being said, the huge difference between YBA and TCA's updates is the willingness to push out emergency changes and fixes. Uzu will pretty much always wait in order to release any changes until a content update is released. Something that can take more than 3 months most of the time. That means that if something is broken, it remains broken for the entirety of that time. TCA, on the other hand, pushes out fixes to game-breaking issues or unforeseen bugs within days, something that cannot be understated as super important. Just recently, Weather Report Heavy Weather got nerfed. That stand was pretty much globally agreed upon to be the most annoying stand in the game, as well as just being kind of broken. So, in between a content update, it just had a balance change pushed out to it. Just like that, making it not nearly as annoying. Wow, what a novel concept. So yeah, quicker updates in general, the willingness to push out emergency fixes, TCA's got this one, no question. To a lot of people, visual effects is a huge draw for a game, but in my opinion, it can be a blessing and a curse. The problem is, while making things look flashy and cool, you can run into the unintended side effect of losing visual clarity. In today's YBA, with all of the screen effects, it can often be difficult to tell what the hell is even going on. I see a lot of people consistently trash on the visual effects and just general visual fidelity of TCA, and I'm just gonna be honest, I really don't see it. At all. Like, genuinely. I just don't understand. Maybe it's because I come from the age of old YBA, where everything was equally, if not more janky and less visually appealing, so I'm just used to that stuff and it doesn't bother me whatsoever. But it seems like there's a lot of people out there that basically just worship what the game looks like rather than how it actually plays. When it comes to animations, it's definitely hit or miss for both games. YBA has a variety of stands that are still old and have old animations, and they haven't been fixed because the game takes ages to update, and when it does, they do like one thing at a time. And the same thing applies to TCA. There are some animations in TCA that are very clearly dated. They're old. But here's the thing. You can look at things like Star Platinum the World's Beatdown and TCA and see that the highest high that they have right now is plenty capable of competing with the stuff from the rest of the genre. So it's not a matter of TCA can't do this, it's more a matter of some of this stuff is outdated, and it's going to be improved with time. And also, some of this stuff isn't going to be improved with time, because it just makes the game easier to play for everyone because you could see what's happening. While it's definitely true that YBA's transparency has improved tenfold since a few years back, unfortunately multiplying 0.1 by 10 is still only 1. Trying to figure out what's going on with the game, especially if you're just an average player, just feels next to impossible. It's like you're trying to communicate with a AAA publisher rather than a Roblox development team. If you even go as far as to ping certain staff members on the YBA Discord, they'll ban you. On TCA's Discord, if you jump in right now, you can easily get into contact with someone on the staff to help with whatever issues you may have. The TCA developers and staff act like, well, human beings. Feedback from players is responded to and taken into consideration, something that wouldn't happen in a million years in YBA. Some may make the argument that this is due to the difference in both games' size, but unfortunately, we won't be able to test that theory unless TCA actually has an increase of players. But seriously, when it comes to YBA and especially balance problems and stuff like that, it's an actual crapshoot to know when things or if things are even going to be addressed. Back in the day, I made 2 whole videos with, I think, over 40 things that I said that the game probably wouldn't fix, and it took them, I think, over a year to fix any of those things. In TCA, if something's broken or not working properly, flat out overpowered, underpowered, you name it, you can actually get information on what the thought process behind that is from the people working on it, rather than just being, well, completely left in the dark. This one's another point to YBA, and I don't really think anyone can argue this one. YBA has objectively more stands, objectively more specs, and objectively more, quote, things to do. But the reality is, most of these aforementioned things to do involve playing the same game mode over and over again, relying on RNG to get items. YBA never really had a whole lot of stuff for you to do in it, and never bothered to continue to add more. When was the last time we got a new game mode, or a new stand obtainment method? Point is, while YBA absolutely has more things in the game, when it comes to things to do in them, well, it's pretty similar. The difference is YBA has more stuff. This is something that will inevitably change over time as YBA's update speed continues at its current pace, and TCA's actually continues to get content. This is the last thing on the list, and probably the most important. TCA has so much room to grow, and continues to show that the people behind it care for the game, and most importantly, care about their players, the people playing. YBA has the resources to make an incredible Jojo game like no one has ever seen. But unfortunately, they choose to squander that opportunity at just about every possible turn. Meanwhile, this tiny game that hovers around the lower hundreds of players at times shows the potential of finally being that game. And the more people that play, the more resources become available, and the better the game can become. That's why this whole situation of YBA TCA is so tragic to me. It seems like over time, people have lost sight of what the Jojo Roblox game genre could be, rather than what it is right now. Like I said before, YBA has the resources. They could put out an update every week, I guarantee it. They could pay people to get stuff out every week, every other week at the very least. But they choose not to do that. Is that out of greed? Probably, but we'll never know. And that's the most tragic thing of all. Having the resources, but choosing not to use them to make a better game for everybody. Honestly, the ball's in your court now. I told you the pros and the cons of both games, but now it's up to you whether you support either of them. Reality is, there's a lot of people who believe it has to be a one or the other situation, and that's just simply not true. If you enjoy YBA still, go ahead and play it. Don't let anyone stop you or tell you otherwise, but also don't let YBA become your personality. There are other games out there, and you should give these other games a try, because competition is something that breeds innovation, and innovation is better for everyone. The more you decide to be okay with the status quo and look past potential games that can give YBA a run for its money, the more you encourage YBA to continue what it's doing. Because what they're doing is working, and, well, you're letting it work. It's up to you guys, the viewers and the players. You get to decide whether or not the medium takes a step forward, or it just remains where it is, slowly withers out and dies. I've done basically all I can. I've done more than was probably expected of me. And, well, that's it.